genre.
Welcome back to the Doctor's Companion presents Doctor Who, The Long Way Around, the weekly podcast where we review and discuss every episode of Doctor Who, one doctor at a time. I'm Scott Corelli.
I'm Cass Fredrickson.
And I'm Nick Jimenez.
Today on the show, we'll be discussing Big Finish Audio's The Marian Conspiracy, which we are calling the Sixth Doctor's 12th story. Please don't argue with me about semantics. I don't care. This is what we're doing. Yes, the Marian Conspiracy, which is written. It was recorded in 99, came out in March of 2000, and this was Big Finish's first foray into an original companion, which they would quickly double up on, because I think Charlie Pollard came shortly after this story with Storm Warning. But this was their first attempt at an original companion in the form of Evelyn Smythe. And yeah, this is sort of like, this is a big deal for the Sixth Doctor, because this is like the beginning of the Sixth Doctor's transition from the most hated Doctor to one of the most beloved ones. And it's all thanks to everything that Big Finish did with this character. The least of which is this, which is introducing a new companion, an elderly woman by the name of Evelyn Smythe, who puts the Sixth Doctor in his place continuously. Really changes him fundamentally as a character, all for the better. And it wrecks, and Evelyn wrecks. And I love Evelyn Smythe so much. But I am fascinated to hear, Nick, what you thought of your introduction to this wonderful character.
Well, first off, she's 55.
Yes.
So in her prime, I would say. And,
that is not how she's depicted. I will say.
I love Evelyn. I think my favorite parts of this episode involved her, and she's such a delightful character. I think her chemistry with the Sixth Doctor and the two actors' chemistry is just so, watching them bounce off each other, and it kind of solves the math problem of Six, where it's really fun to have a companion that pokes at him and kind of frustrates him a little bit, because it's just fun to see this character kind of get flustered. But help me out, Scott. So did this release after the Frobisher episode that we covered previously?
Yes, I believe so. I think the Frobisher was the first or second Sixth Doctor story that they did before they decided this was how they were going to go. They were like, oh, we should just fill in the period between, the regeneration that we don't know anything about, into the Seventh Doctor and the end of Trial of a Time Lord. We should fill in that period of time. And that's when they went kind of all in on giving him an original companion.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think like that last episode, which I wasn't very crazy about, I just really, I appreciate the progression and the growth they're doing with Six. And I think Colin Baker is, exceptional in this story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Cass, I assume you've heard this before, but maybe a long,
Yes.
long time ago.
Yeah, like over a decade ago. And I think it was just I don't remember how many more of the sixth and Evelyn ones I listened to at the time. But I remember really loving Evelyn, and it was really fun to like listen to this again, even though I had like very little memory of it. I remember really liking their back and forth and like their whole character dynamic, and I think that still holds true. Like I like that she has no patience for Six's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like really refreshing, but it's like it's not in like a combative way. It's just like I literally like I'm I'm a professor. I literally don't have time for this, you know?
Yeah.
And I like that they are on more equal footing than Six and Perry ever were. I think that helps with the character dynamic a lot.
Yeah, definitely. There's a sense of and I'll spoil this this like moment because like we're not going to cover this story because it's like one of those short trips episodes which we're just never going to cover on here because like my god there would be nothing to talk about. But there's this really great moment where he is talking to Evelyn about like some sort of like Doctor Who like science-y science fiction bullshit, and she's like, oh yes, right, of course, yes, of course. and he's like, you know about all of this, and she was like, no, I just agree, I just have found it easier to agree with everything that you say. And it's just the best, and he's just like so like distraught by that, but it's like that's Evelyn and that's how she treats him, and I just think it's so fun. And it really goes to show you the joy that you can get out of Big Finish Audio, which is that like they are not, they are not required to have an attractive young companion as the companion, like the television series was, because they were like, well, we have to look at them. God help us, we have to look at a 55-year-old woman. Jesus. What kind of horrifying world do you want to live in? But like here, like they don't have to deal with those stupid notes. Like they get to just be like, no, you know what? What would be best for the Sixth Doctor is dealing with a 55-year-old professor of history who will constantly berate him and put him in his place. And that's what he needs, because he needs to be humbled. And that's great. I love that. And you just look at that compared to like the 10th Doctor, where they're like, it would be great if he was traveling with someone who's his equal, but like, let's not go too far. Let's still make her a 25-year-old doctor's medical student. Like I love Martha, but like, at the same time, they're like, we don't want her to be too much his equal. We still want her to be hot or whatever. And so like, I really love this. I love that, like, that's the benefit of Big Finish, is that you get to have characters like this be companions, something we never get to see on the show unless they are part of like a big crew, like in the 13th Doctor's era,
It's absolutely something we've talked about on the show over the years. Like we love the new companions, but if you look through like from Rose to Martha to like, I mean, there kind of became like an ingenue kind of template. And it's like, it's two hands, because like we love these characters individually, but then also we want the show to like, I don't know, like listening to you, Scott, like describe Evelyn like in a vacuum. I was like, gosh, like imagining Olivia Colman as like that kind of like,
yeah,
oh, she's retired. She's not expecting her life to be exciting anymore because that's not how it, and then it's like she's thrust into this crazy, cosmic adventure with the Doctor.
Yeah.
I remember in 13's era how even outside of this podcast, just the fandom were really sad when Grace was killed off so shortly. Because it's like, oh, that's exactly the kind of companion we would want. Like, what's that character like traveling the stars?
I would have dumped all three companions in exchange for Grace to be the companion for 13. Like, I like dump them all, kill all three of them in the first episode. Yeah. Have the tooth monster just slit all of their fucking throats.
Oh no, my
and
boyfriend
save-
Graham and my grandson Ryan and my neighbor Yaz.
Yes. and 13's just like, I'll be all three of those for you.
Oh,
Come on, get the
Fuck
started.
them, Grace. Let's go.
Yes. I would have adored that era so much more, I think, with Grace and the TARDIS versus all three of the characters we got. It also would have been a lot more focused, which was one of our complaints of that era.
I mean, not to get too like galaxy brain, but I think it's why a lot of people have such anxiety about aging. It's subconsciously we think the adventure ends when we're like 29 or whatever, because that's what the media tells us.
Yeah, it's like why, like, you know, some of our favorite companions of the past of this entire era have been like Bernard Cribbins, who is only a companion for like an episode, right? But he's amazing and we love him. God bless. But also Graham. Like, we're always talking about Graham, you know? Like, we love him. And it's because he's so different from everything else that we get typically. And that is, I think, what makes Evelyn so special. It's just like she just feels so different. And I think that's a lot of fun. So the Marian conspiracy. I mean, it is a purely historical. There is the only science fiction element in this is that like Evelyn is like disappearing like Marty McFly at the end of Back to the Future. Which I don't know. Do we get an actual explanation as to like why that was actually happening, or is the assumption just that like the Doctor hadn't gone there yet and so he needed to be there in order to like get the events to go the way they're supposed to because he was always supposed to be there or something?
I just assumed that was like a season long mystery like Charlie was.
Oh,
so I didn't question it. I was just like, oh, okay, like she's she's some point in time. Okay, whatever.
Right.
So
fair enough.
To skip to the end.
Yeah,
we learn that an ancestor of Evelyn's would someday be like at the court of the Queen. I forgot what position he would be, like a advisor or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, if that guy isn't born, I'm not born. And so, like, very Back to the Future. But I'm trying to remember, like, because what's the thing that goes wrong in Back to the Future is Marty falls from the tree and gets hit by the car, and so Leah Thompson falls in love with Marty instead of George McFly. Like, that's the thing that goes wrong. Yeah. And I can't pick out what the Marian conspiracy's equivalent of that is supposed to be.
Well, because it was already going wrong before they go back in time, so it's not like they messed anything up. It was already happening because she was beeping.
She was already beeping.
Yeah. And he was interrupting her class, but he was like, you're the one interrupting your class because you're the beep.
The beep, the beep of the meep. Anyway, beep of the meep.
I'm old. Let me be a companion.
You know what? I'd give up a lot for that to happen.
And she never gets better morally. She's like always trying to just eat people.
Yes. Yeah. Now she's just like, knock that off.
Oh, he's so mean to poor old Meep. Meep just wants to eat a baby.
Just one. No one will miss it.
Stop following me.
Yeah. So, So I don't think anything like triggers that. Like, the only thing that I can think of is that it's a sort of like, what do you call that? Where the type of time travel where it's like it was always supposed to happen this way, so that's why it needed to happen.
Yeah.
Determinism or something. Yeah.
Like a closed loop.
Yeah. Like, that's the only thing I can think of is that it was a determinism loop. That
Skynet is always going to happen versus like, no, if you do the right thing, you can stop Skynet from happening.
Yeah. The problem was that she just hadn't gone back yet, and she needed to in order for like to tee off all the events that lead to her birth. I think. I don't know.
Scott, if we do want to get into the recap, like you reminded me of how kind of charming and cool this opening was, of like just the oral effect of just hearing Colin Baker's voice in the back of the classroom being like, "Oh no, don't worry about me." And I'm like, "Oh, that's Colin Baker. That's the doctor. Oh, we're already cooking. We're already on the adventure."
Yeah, yeah. It's a fun way of introducing a companion. And I love that he like many a companion, the plan is only to have her for this adventure. But as opposed to most companions who wait to be invited, Evelyn was like, "No, I'm old and I want this. This is happening." And the doctor's like, "Okay." And I love that. I think that's fun.
Yeah, when they go back to her house, and as she's after he's explained, like, "Yeah, you're beeping because you're an anomaly. I have to go back in time to like figure out what's going on." She's like already packing her bags, and I had this thought of like, "Oh, it already feels like they're best friends."
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really good. Yeah, so they go back in time and we meet Queen Mary, who has who's the stepmother to Elizabeth, the soon to be queen
stepsister, yeah.
Okay, stepsister. Stepsister to Queen Elizabeth, or will be Queen Elizabeth, will be crowned later. Elizabeth is in the Tower of London currently. And Queen Mary is like, "I'm pro-Catholic. Fuck all you Protestants, you evil sons of bitches." And they're like, "Actually, you're the evil son of a bitch." And she's like, "No, I don't think that's right." And then that's the story. That's the conflict. And that's the story, is like them all trying to come to terms with all of this. And the doctor kind of having no opinion about any of this, because he's like, "I mean, this is just what happens. We go from England goes from Catholicism to Protestant. Elizabeth has to be queen because that's what has to happen. So like, I'm on the side of history, whatever that happens to be." Mm-hmm. It's a lot of like people coming before Mary and being like, "This is weird," and her being like, "The hell it is. You should die." They're like. and that's kind of that, like, that's it. It's so weird that this is as fun as it is to listen to, because there isn't like a lot of story here. It's more just like talking to Mary making some sort of like big statement of like, this is how things are going to be, or this is how things shouldn't be. And then the doctor and Evelyn like having an aside later, be like, "Okay, so here's what's supposed to happen next. What if we did this, like that kind of thing." And then they try again, and they just keep doing that. And that's the story. I don't know.
Who wrote this one? Because I think a lot of the moral quandary, I guess, the like philosophy of like, because there's a really interesting moment where the doctor is talking to one of the ladies in waiting for Mary, and she, she's very adamant that she's like, she's going to stand by her queen or her monarch or whatever. And then the doctor is just like, because Mary has been like ordained by God, and like that she's doing what she believes is right. And so like the doctor has this really interesting monologue about like, what would you say to me if I have told you I have done all of these horrifying, terrible things, but the entire time I thought I was doing what I thought was right. And I thought like that was like really well done, like performed, but also like a really interesting place to put the Sixth Doctor in particular, like the arguably like the Doctor that has seen like the most violence in his tenure up to this point, So like I was really fascinated with what like the moral quandary of like trying to remain impartial when people are being burned at the stake, or like people are being wrongfully imprisoned because one person believes they're doing like God's will,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really poignant hearing him, even with like the added texture of his voice that we don't get in his younger years on TV. Just hearing Six be like, "Oh no, like there's been horrible things that have happened because I've arrived on a planet," or driven. He's like, "I've driven normal people to do extreme crazy stuff that they probably never would have done if they hadn't have interacted with me. And hearing like the regret, but also the matter of factness in his voice, just it was like, oh, I really like this kind of weathered wisdom coming from Six.
Yeah, the writer is Jacqueline Rayner, and she has basically like exclusively, not exclusively, but like basically exclusively written Sixth Doctor and Bernie Summerfield Big Finish audios.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Those are like the two things that have been sort of her focus at Big Finish. And yeah, she's written a bunch of Sixth Doctor stories and adapted a ton of the Bernie Summerfield stuff. Bernie Summerfield, Nick, is a companion who was created during the New Virgin Adventure stories in the like in the 90s, early 90s, when it was like the dark era of Doctor Who and there were just like novels and that was it. I believe she was created by Paul Cornell.
I think so.
Yeah, because he was kind of like the head writer of the novels in that era. Yeah, Big Finish Audio like brought her in and kind of made her like made her like a main, gave her her own line and made her like a main character. And she kind of became like a supporting character in some of these main, because they kind of like wanted to like low key make her canon in Big Finish because they like her so much, I guess. But like, she's kind of a proto River Song minus all of the Time Lord stuff. So she's not Time Lordy in any way, but she is like, like an adventurer / archaeologist, Indiana Jones type. Yeah. So
I like that her I like companions whose names sound like they could also be names of showrunners of Doctor Who.
That's true.
Bernie Summerfield.
Yes, Bernie Summerfield. But yeah, Jacqueline Rayner's good. She writes another upcoming Sixth Doctor Evelyn story that is like one of my favorites and one that I don't want to spoil for Nick because when Nick realizes what it is, he's going to lose his goddamn mind.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and she writes that story and it rips. So, yeah, she's one of the good ones for sure. Yeah.
I like what did you guys think of the so Evelyn is like, I'm in this time that I've been obsessed with my entire academic career. I'm going to have an authentic English experience with authentic English folk. And so she goes to like a local pub or tavern or something. And she meets just kind of like a chorus of dudes who we later learn are rebels.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love how they
she
always
toasts
refer to
Elizabeth not knowing that she's not queen yet. They're all like, what the fuck?
That's the first cliffhanger, I think, is like traitor.
Yeah. Yeah. They think that she's a Catholic spy, which is a funny thing to think about. The concept of a Catholic spy is very funny to me.
Is the Assassin's Creed guy Catholic?
Yeah.
He's Italian, right? So
yeah, I guess.
Right?
Yeah.
kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah, fair enough.
Cass, what did you think of the non-Evelyn parts of this plot?
As far as like her involvement, or as far as like the Doctor's half of the thing?
I could word that better. I guess I mean like, the rebellion, and like the French guy that the Doctor thinks might be a spy, but he's actually just a kind of a zealot.
I found that like most of them were like kind of like stock or like placeholdery, but I did really like the one that like apparently had a crush on Evelyn or something. Like I thought he was really funny.
Oh yeah, the kind of younger sounding one.
Yeah. It was also very funny to me that these two like just dudes addressed each other by their full name at all times.
Loved it. What are you saying, John Crow? Oh, nothing, Simon Spike or whatever. Like,
Yeah. I will say, and I don't even think this is the first, because I think we've heard him play like similar roles in other stories, I think. Or maybe was it Zagreus where he was kind of in this realm? I don't know. But in any event, I just feel like Colin Baker was like born to be to voice or act beside or be the role of a royal advisor. Like he is just like made for the role of a royal advisor. Like that is like his vibe without a doubt.
Is it like, because like, I don't know, I feel like the royal advisor typically gets like a bad rep. Like he's usually like the bad guy. So is it just because of his like his voice or like his attitude or?
Well, so much of the, I think the parts of the episode where he's just like consulting the queen of like, oh, Majesty, you have to remember that if you do this, then this might happen. And you're like, yeah, like, yeah, you can picture him being like in wizard robes, kind of consulting.
Yes.
The good princess and something.
Yeah. And there's like a, it's like in a similar place, I think, when he does it. It's in that similar place as like Uncle Ira in Last Airbender, like to Prince Zuko, like that kind of like that same kind of vibe of just like, you know, they say something insane and then he's just like, well, you know, like you can think of it like this maybe instead. There's just something very soothing about him, you know, like in that role where he is manipulative, but like it's for like a good cause, I guess. There's good morals behind his manipulation. He's like wanting him to see the bigger picture or whatever. And that's the vibe that I get from 6 here. And so I guess that's what I was thinking of. I don't know.
Yeah, there's something a little paternal about his conversations with the queen.
Yeah. But
the Frenchman accuses them. He accuses them.
Yes. No, but this is I think this was like a fun it was a fun listen ultimately, because it is like it's fun hearing like a pure historical, and they remembered to have enough fun with that aspect, with like Evelyn like kind of nerding out about it all, that I think it ends up really working for the story as a whole. But it is worth noting, I guess, like novels included, this was the first Doctor Who story that was a pure historical since Black Orchid. That was this is the first one.
That's cool.
Yeah. Everybody was doing, I mean, we talked about this a couple of episodes ago with the Mask of Mandragora. But yeah, like everybody was mixing sci-fi into the historical stuff up to this. Like this was the first time that they were like, maybe we let the sci-fi stuff take a back seat. We just do this Marty McFly thing, and the rest of it is just totally historical. Yeah.
The episode ends with that melodrama of the loyal handmaiden being revealed to have like a secret Protestant marriage that the queen finds sacrilegious, and the Doctor has to kind of broker some mercy out of the queen.
That is something that I was like, oh, I learned something today. It's just the idea that like a Catholic priest not being allowed to marry is not actually like a Catholic thing. It was like a royal thing where it was like, no, I don't like the idea of them being married. So now that's a rule. And now over time it's become like a religious thing, even though, cause like, you know, all of that got mixed up in a lot of shit. But yeah, like I was like, I found that kind of fascinating that was not Catholicism's choice to do that. That was some sort of like royal choice to make it illegal for a man of the cloth to marry. That's interesting.
There's this great there's a Simpsons joke where I think it's that they're at a jail and Reverend Lovejoy passes like a Catholic priest, like, you know, one's entering, one's leaving, and the Reverend Lovejoy is like, nice dress, and the Catholic priest is like, go home and have sex with your wife.
That's funny. But yeah, found that interesting.
Cass, do you think this episode would have been improved by like a giant bumblebee or a mist that goes into people's minds and turns them into zombies or something,
I don't think so. Like I like, and I think this is a testament to like how well like Evelyn is written, and I don't know the actress's name off the top of my head, but the energy that she brings to it, like I'm invested because she's invested.
Mm-hmm.
And she has like big academic opinions about like what's going on. So I think that is like part of the charm of this for me. Like it's important to this character, so like by proxy it's important to me. And I think including like a wacky sci-fi element would like muddle it a little bit. Like cuz we talked about I don't remember how long ago this was, like the Dalek Shakespeare one.
Mm-hmm.
Like and it works better in theory than it does like actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I think including like another sci-fi element in here would not, I don't think it would hold up as much or as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. That reminds me of like, I've been thinking about the Devil's Cord as we talk about historicals as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking like, oh, would that episode have been better? Even though Jinx is like 100% the best part of that episode, the Beatles almost feel like an afterthought, and kind of the marketing maybe got my expectations prepped for like, oh, the Doctor Who's going to meet the Beatles. This is going to be great. And like, where is with that version of that episode where it's just kind of like a relationship drama where they're about to break up and the Doctor and Millie Gibson have to save their friendship. I don't know.
But what if the alien that they fought, like 8 marriages or something? Just 8 marriages. Like that's
not my marriage.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of a silly Doctor Who monster that would thematically be relevant to this story.
I don't know. I like that it feels like a play. This one, like I like that there's only like 7 characters, and like I like all the, even though there isn't like, the plot is like super thin and it's just like court business, I like all of the conversations that happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think Maggie Stables is the actress that plays Evelyn. I think that like adding a sci-fi element or like a monster or whatever to this, I think the problem, I mean, I guess you could have done like a village situation, spoilers for the village, where like you think there's a monster that is like killing the Protestants or whatever, and then it turns out to just be like an assassin working for the Queen or something. I think that could have been a cool way to have your cake and eat it without like betraying the historical of it all. But I do think if there had been like a wacky sci-fi concept or monster in this, I just feel like Evelyn wouldn't be down. So like, I just think she would be like, this never happened. Like, you know,
like, I don't think she would have been like, okay, well, thank you. That was educational. I'm going to like go back to writing my lecture.
And pretend that never happened.
Yeah.
Like if it turns out the Catholic Church was like founded by a bee.
Right.
Just a bee wearing a Pope hat.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's good. Is that the Mothman?
Is that the Mothman? Shit. Oh, Mothman, when will you stop trying to take over religions?
Stop eating marriages.
Tired to the northeastern part of America.
God, that's good. Anywho, yeah. I do. I like this one a lot. But I do think the next one is even more fun. And or I should say, it is more fun. It's not quite as heavy as this one could be at certain points. Just thematically. And I'll spoil this. The next one is the Spectre of Lanyon Moore. So there's a ghost element, a little paranormal stuff going on, and you're gonna get Evelyn matching wits with Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart.
Holy shit!
Who doesn't want that? I mean,
Wow.
come on.
Does she make him any cocoa? Does he try her cocoa?
I feel like that's got to be a thing, right? I think maybe it is. I don't know.
Oh my God.
I think the reason why I like Evelyn's vibe so much, it's because it's like if Bilbo Baggins was a companion.
Yes.
Yes.
She's like, hot chocolate hasn't been invented yet, so I'm bringing my own. Like, that's so...
Yeah. And like she's more excited about filling in the margins of her research than finding gold or something.
Ugh, so good. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anything else to say about this one because it's not like a plot heavy story, honestly. It's very much like, let's introduce you guys to this lady. And like
here's a cool lady.
Yeah, what's her vibe? What's she all about? How does she feel about things? Yeah, that's what we get out of this. As along with some like really strong theological discussions and
morality
arguments and things. It's a really, really good one. It's just not one that you can really like go like beat for beat plot wise.
Right.
But if you didn't listen to it, highly recommend checking it out because Evelyn's the best. And
I listened on Spotify.
Yeah, there you go. See, yeah, free on Spotify. We'll run out of those eventually, but not yet. So check it out. Yeah. So is that it, everybody? Like, we got anything else to say?
There is a joke that actually made me laugh out loud. Just because I've watched so much Classic Who. There's a part where Evelyn is complaining about her knees bothering her, and the doctor makes a remark like, "Oh, a knee, like that's new. Like it's usually an ankle that's the problem." And like the amount, like especially because like the amount of times like Sarah Jane specifically has like rolled her ankle at an inopportune time.
Yeah,
it made me laugh.
The doctor really needs to get like a ankle sprain setting on his sonic screwdriver. Just take care of that shit right away.
Instant ankle brace. Okay, let's go.
Let's go. You're all good.
Or like an on-site robot that specializes in just like deep body like massages posted.
Yeah. That's good too. I like that.
Recovery is just as important as running. Frobisher.
It's good. So as we are just beginning our journey into Big Finish with the Sixth Doctor, next week we end our journey with the Seventh Doctor on television before entering his Big Finish era. Next week we're talking about survival, parentheses, of the cat people, presumably. I think that's its full Christian name. I don't know. But yes, survival, which will of course end with, the Doctor walking into the sunset with Ace. As the show is canceled. So we'll get to talk about all of that next week. It's a shorter one, only 3 parts, I believe. And features the Master, and a lot of cat people. Were cats.
Played by Robert Delgado?
No, Anthony Ainley.
Anthony Ainley, the second, or I guess technically third, Classic Who Master. Yeah. The one who the one that's got like the really, really campy one, that like popped up a lot in Fifth Doctor stories.
Okay. So I've seen him a couple times already.
Yeah. Wore the Fu Manchu situation that one time, and we were like, yikes on bikes.
Yep.
Yeah. It's him.
Well,
so this will be his last canonical appearance before the Doctor Who TV movie, in which he's a goo that possesses a man. Possesses an EMT. So there you go.
Oh man.
Oh, boy. Bittersweet, melancholy about saying goodbye to Seven and Ace, but
but there's so much more good 7 and A stuff to come. We just won't get to look at it anymore, unfortunately. We'll only be able to hear it. But yeah, next week, Survival. And we'll talk to you then. Bye, everybody.